Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am making this video, which is extremely controversial probably, by request from a couple of people in our Discord to just kind of go over the Feh Pass and what it is. Because I mean, I talked a little bit about it in like the Feh channel reaction review video thing that I did the other night. It's Sunday night, right? It's almost Monday morning, basically. It's very late. I'm recording this now in the hopes that I get it out before the actual Feh Pass goes up, to kind of give you some insight and my thoughts into if this is actually worth your time or not, if the outrage is overhyped or justified, and overall, I've kind of come to the conclusion, just in general, that it's kind of on a point-by-point basis. So with that said, I know that this is a touchy subject. I am not, advocating for the pass. I am not saying that the pass is the worst thing ever. I'm going to try and take a moderate approach to explaining it and talking about it, but I am going to give my opinion, because that's what I do with this stuff. I talk about it and give my take on it, so I will have some portions that I'm less impartial towards than others. So with that said, all I really ask is that as I go through these points, you kind of remain open to exploring each individual aspect of the pass itself, and then just kind of putting it all together and deciding the good points and the bad points and the points that do matter and the ones that don't, and how it impacts you overall. Because I know, like, part of the reason I'm making this video is because there's been a lot of outrage and gaslighting that I've seen on this issue on Twitter, and I feel honestly like it's a little over exaggerated, that it got fueled by bandwagoning and outrage, and maybe even like player entitlement to a small extent. And I want to take a moderate approach to looking at it neutrally and just seeing if it's really worth all of that upset. Because if you think about it, the FE community has been so united between Three Houses debuting, and every Fire Emblem player hates Fire Emblem games, but we didn't hate this one. And then the Smash community kind of hating on us because Byleth got in Smash, which wasn't even our fault. So you really think about if the people who like the past, the people who don't care about the past, and the people who hate the past, don't let this kind of eat away at the unity that we have all gained over the last year. Don't let 2020 be the year that slips away, friends, because 2019 was glorious. I don't care what anybody says. So just remember, I want you to think about whether it's worth all of that, dying on a hill. I want you to think about if it's worth it or not. And again, I'm not advocating for or against. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to just lay out the facts and just kind of explain and give my take. And as always, leaving comments on videos, while helpful for community discussion, tweeting out how upset you are may be good therapy for you. But ultimately, that does not help the game developers understand where you're coming from. Submit feedback. Submit thoughtful feedback. Don't go in there rage typing, thinking that, swearing at them or whatever, like, that's not going to get your point across. You want a thoughtful, well-versed thought put into words that will help them understand what you're talking about and why you're upset about this. So, with that incredibly long preamble, let's get into this, shall we? So let's start with the pass. There are 5 main points, which you can see in my thoughtfully brought up cue card here. There are resplendent heroes, there are quest rewards, there are expanded summoner reports, there is react and auto start. So those are the 5 main things. I'm going to go over all these in some detail, point by point by point, and then, let you know how these benefits or added features may help you, may hurt you, how they impact the game overall, things like that. So let's go ahead and start with resplendent heroes, and we'll get to the rest of the perks later. Yes. So, resplendent heroes. These guys basically give you new skins and voices for existing heroes. While they only really introduced Book 1 heroes for the Feh channel, it's unknown as to whether or not they will branch out into newly added heroes or the like. But right now, it's, we've just seen Book 1, but they did say existing heroes specifically. You're going to get +2 to all stats for resplendent heroes, so there's that. That's kind of a benefit, I guess. Starting in March, you will get 2 every month, one on the 10th and the other on the 25th. It starts a little bit sooner in February, which is this month, and I think the sign-up period starts on the 5th, right after the update. So you have a little bit of overlap. The official cycle will start in March, however. To get them, you have to be actively subscribed to the pass during the Resplendent's distribution period, which, again, is what it is. Past Resplendent heroes are planned to be made available for purchase separately later, but in order to get them, you must be actively subscribed to a pass during that time, for what that's worth. The distribution schedule will be made available ahead of time on the Feh Pass website, so it does kind of give you a chance to be more prepared, I guess, to decide whether or not you want to Feh Pass that month. And I think that alone speaks volumes to this actual Feh Pass thing, right? I think they spent the most time talking about Resplendent heroes. They're giving you notice, like, when new Resplendent heroes are going to be and who they're going to be, so you can decide if you want to subscribe or not. I think the Resplendent heroes are actively the main draw that they are trying to focus on for this Feh Pass, for what it is. It doesn't matter what feature that it offers that you care about more. This, I think, was intended to be their main draw for the Feh Pass. They're letting you know when you can subscribe, which kind of indicates to me, like, they don't think you're going to be getting it every single month. And that's a big point, too. That impacts what they think the cost should be and everything else. So, with that in mind, we're going to move forward and continue talking about these things. But just remember, I think that's, whether you believe it or not, I think that's probably what is likely to be their main draw for this pass. So in the immediate, it's not likely going to impact a whole lot. Like, this just doesn't change much, other than replace Cordelia's base art, which I will move heaven and earth to make happen. That's just the way it is, friends. It seems like they're trying to make older units a little more relative with the stat buffs as well, which I can appreciate. It's likely that older units will be the primary focus initially, which means stat increases won't really play as big of a part in modes like Arena initially. That could shift, obviously, once we get more Resplendents in the game, and they impact things more actively in that manner. But I don't know that Lyn is going to be a bonus unit anytime soon. Like, there's factors for that. Like, it's a whole thing. So again, it's easy to get outraged immediately, but when you sit back and think about it, think about how many weeks in gameplay that stuff like this is actually going to impact. So I would also assume that the stat increase factors once you have the hero, whether your pass is active or not. They didn't actively say it, but I think the stat buff is realistically tied to the unit itself, not the pass, for what that's worth. They didn't really clarify specifically, but if I had to take a guess, I would say that's where we're at with that. Again, I think overall the character is the main draw. That's kind of what they were focused on in their head. I don't know that they really executed that thought to the player base well, and that's definitely on them. They should have been outright and been like, hey, we're offering you new character skins for a monthly fee, and then all this other stuff just comes with it. Focus on the character skins and voices. So that's what it is. So there's this aspect of maybe this will benefit us all, right? Because we've all had the X character has too many alts banner complaints. Like, that's a whole thing. That means, like, if they give alts via this monthly subscription thing, they may not do as many weird alt special banners, like the weird Hot Springs banner that did not get a successor this past month, which was January. Instead, we got a new Heroes banner, which I think everybody was genuinely pretty happy about, for the most part. Something like this will allow them to, take bigger chances on different banners and less special banners, less alt banners. I think that's something everybody wants, right? Because there's a lot of characters in the Fire Emblem franchise that are still not in Feh that people are trying to get through Choose Your Legends by voting for, and it's just not happening. This may be a better route. Just food for thought. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just giving it as a thought. So again, I think the characters are the big draw. I think there's some unseen benefits to the inner workings. Obviously, I'm not in IS's head, so I don't know that I'm right about any of this. Just one man's opinion. Quest rewards. Heard a lot about quest rewards. Quest rewards are really important, Brian. They impact us greatly, and blah, blah, blah. We saw the pass screen. They will be available twice monthly, again corresponding to the Resplendent Hero distribution. So again, everything seems to be tied to the Resplendent Hero themselves, kind of making that the main draw. So we saw the main menu scroll through what would be one of the cycles. I have gone through and looked and tallied them total. So the total rewards for the month will equal 10 orbs, 240 divine codes, 70 divine dew, 100 heroic grails, and 240 ether stones. Let's just knock this one off immediately. 10 orbs a month is not a lot. It is not a lot at all. It is 2 first-time pulls. That is it for a month. Some months have like 3 new banners. Well, every month typically has at least 3 new banners on it. That's not a lot, man. Divine codes. Those may be important. We don't know. The factor of this involves how much the cost of each code's part redemption is, which, until we get the update, is an unknown, unfortunately. However, it's like all of these rewards, honestly. You're going to get more codes through Mjolnir Strike than you are in anything else. Like, that's just the simple truth of it. It's, we have that multiple times a month. You are likely to get a lot of them through that. I feel like the scoring is a little crazy, but given how it fluctuates, I think everybody in the overall total gets a fair shot at increasing tiers when they can. So again, I don't know if 240 is a lot of divine codes for the worth, but you're likely going to get more in the game mode anyway. Dew. Relatively easy to come by if you do a lot of weapon refines. You get them in other modes like take your pick. They're also a little bit limited, honestly. The Divine Dew specifically, you can only use it on certain weapon refines. So I don't really know if it's in extreme limited demand. So for what that's worth, I don't know the Divine Dew is really that big of a draw. The Grails. The Grails are definitely nice. In my opinion, I feel like they are probably the biggest draw to the quest rewards outside of the pending Divine Codes question. But, you know, again, unless you have a lot of plus 10 Grail projects that you're looking at, well, not a lot, maybe multiple plus 10 projects, you will likely get enough from Ether Raids, which we've talked about in previous videos. Very doable as a free-to-play player, to get up into tier 21 and get a lot every month, every week. So I don't know that 100 Grails is really going to put you over the edge. Ether Stones, same thing with Ether Stones. I feel like we have a lot of access to these in a lot of different modes on a weekly basis. So while they may give you an advantage, I don't know that the total number every month is really going to make or break the big difference between whales and free-to-play players. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I don't see the gap really expanding that much just based on these rewards alone, which, from what I've heard, is one of the bigger issues that they have. But again, I don't think that this is meant to be, like, the quest rewards is not likely intended to be the main draw of this Feh Pass. This is just an added bonus for getting it because the Resplendent Heroes is the main draw, and this is kind of an extra way that they're using to justify the overall cost of the pass. It's an extra thank you. You know what I mean? Alright. That was probably not a very popular opinion for me to have, let me tell you. Expanded Summoner Support. Let's talk about that. So this allows you to support up to 3 units instead of 1. The thing that the Feh channel really didn't talk about was the stat boost that Summoner Supports get. And I think that is probably, like, they made it so, oh, you can support your favorite heroes even more now. It's tough to decide with just 1. Now you have 3. But ultimately, this is one thing that I think could, I mean, definitely more than Resplendent Heroes for the most part. This could have a bigger impact immediately on things like arena scores, for example. I don't know that it will be active in things like arena score. I assume that it would, because nobody in the Feh channel mentioned that it wouldn't. And in all of the other bonus reward things, they were very clear about it only works in XYZ game mode. So I assume that the Summoner Support stat bonuses would work in those competitive modes. That's kind of a bummer. In the long run, does it expand the gap between free-to-play and, you know, someone who's willing to spend money on the game? I don't know. This is one of those that I'm kind of on the fence about, if I'm being perfectly honest. Some of the other benefits don't work in things like Ether Raids and Coliseums, so maybe this doesn't. But more than likely it does. And I don't really know how to feel about it. This is one of the two that I'm kind of iffy about. The other one, the React. This is another one of the quality of life things. The Summoner Support, the React, and then the Autostart, which we'll talk about next. These are one of the 3 quality of life adjustments that a lot of people wanted to see in the game en masse. This is another one that I'm kind of on the fence about. It allows unlimited turn restarts. Can't be used in Ether Raids or Coliseum modes. So this is basically a Divine Pulse or a turn wheel function, depending on the game that you play and are familiar with. It's really just a convenience factor that doesn't impact the overall play experience. Again, probably not a popular opinion to have. I'm trying to take a more moderate approach to thinking about these things. So I'm on the fence as to whether or not it should be made available en masse, similar to the Summoner Support. And the only reason I say that is I think part of the point of the pass is to thank players who choose to contribute to the financial stability of the game. I have seen people argue that the game makes so much money they don't have to do this. Meanwhile, those same people are saying, well, it's a dying game. I don't know why they're charging people to play that don't want to play anyway. The game can't continue without funding, for better or worse. Like, that's just a thing that exists. All right, whether you like it or not, that is a relative truth that we're in. And a monthly subscription is a much more stable source of income rather than unpredictable orb pack purchases. And again, going back to the banner thing, this allows them to take more chances with unpopular banners that they know people are not going to spend money to buy orbs to roll on more often than not. Think about it. So in my mind, think about it like Twitch streamers. And I gave this example in the Discord when we talked about it earlier. And again, not advocating, just putting it out there. So Twitch streamers can survive and continue streaming solely based on subscriptions or bits. Bits in this scenario are a lot like random orb pack purchases, whereas subscriptions are like the Feh Pass, where you have a guaranteed monthly income that you have for that month. Once the person buys it during the month, it is there. They have it for the month. You have the money. There's no variation. You're not subject to daily bit or orb purchases, right? It's kind of like that. It creates a more stable income for the game. And for better or worse, that's ultimately a better thing in the long run than relying solely on random orb purchases. And again, that's not going to be a popular thing for me to say, but it is a relative truth in the discussion that needs to be acknowledged. Like, the game can't sustain if nobody buys anything in it. And I think a stable monthly income is overall a better, more successful model than incentivizing with orb purchases on banners that people get sick of. That's just a truth. So with that in mind, would you rather have players be given, or the players who give financial support rather, be rewarded with things like this, React, or something that is more impactful to the overall game and competitive scoring systems and things like that? That's kind of what you have to tackle with. And that's why I'm on the fence as to whether or not I think something like this should be available to everybody, no questions asked. I personally, I don't think I'm going to get the Feh Pass every month. If there's not a character I'm interested in, I'm probably not going to get it. Again, full disclosure, I will do anything I need to make my plus 10 base Cordelia look better. She's on my wall, like right back there. That's just gonna happen. But I don't think I'm gonna do it every month, and I don't think it's meant to be done every month. And overall, on the months that I don't have it, I would rather players who buy it every month to have things like this that don't really impact me that much. Like, the maps aren't that long, you know what I mean? It's not like you're spending an hour to get to the near end of a map to just have it like demolish you. You know, it's not like a mainline Fire Emblem game where that does happen. So I think I'd rather them, the ones who pay every month, to have things like this rather than stuff that's going to break scoring modes more so than what already exists. Oh boy. Are you still with me? Tell me I'm still with you in the comments if you've made it this far, friends. Autostart. This is where I draw the line, if I'm being completely honest with you. And this is where I get a little less impartial, a little less seeing the issues of both sides, and understanding the complaints of everyone. Autostart. This was my thing where I was like, really? Really though? So Autostart allows you to continue playing through maps automatically as long as you have the stamina. Like an auto continue. That's it. That's all it is. It's usable in 3 modes: Training Tower, Tempest Trials Plus, and Forging Bonds. Tempest Trials Plus will also cycle through your defeated teams automatically, so that you don't have to switch. So this is essentially a hands-off approach to grinding the game in game modes that are specifically meant to be grindy. That's it. This, like, I'm not even going to pretend to be impartial. This should absolutely have been in the game way sooner and available to everybody, because this is just a basic function that doesn't impact your play at all. In fact, the function is only active when you're not playing the game. You can only use this benefit when you are actively not playing the game. That's it. There's no added player experience to that, because you are literally not playing the game. You're on auto battle. You're on auto continue auto battle. That's it. That should be in the game. Like, that should be in the game. I don't know how else to explain that in a way that... I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea why this is not available en masse. It baffles me. I feel like this should have been in the game like 2 years ago. Dragalia Lost has this feature. I think they added it a couple months ago. It's a much newer game than Feh. Like, I don't understand. If this was something that you wanted in the game and you're upset that it's a feature that you would otherwise have to pay for, I absolutely get it. Send your comment, send your feedback to them in the game. But again, this benefit is not intended to be the main draw of the pass. This is just an added extra from the Resplendent heroes, and I think they just kind of tacked it on to help benefit players that pay and support the game financially. I do not think that this particular thing being added to a pay pack was a good idea. The other two I was on the fence about, or the last two rather, the Resplendents and even the quests I can get behind as being part of the monthly pay pack. This specifically, no. Autostart should definitely be free to play, and just a nice quality of life function that people have. In fact, I would say make this free. Drop the pack price to like something $6.99-ish, and put auto start in as a standard feature for all players. That's my opinion. Speaking of price, let's talk about the $9.49, because this is by far the biggest complaint that I had seen, and ultimately the cost of the actual pass itself is what you use to determine whether or not it's worth. Doesn't matter what's in the pass, what you like about the pass, what you dislike about the pass. If you can't afford it, or you don't want to pay that much for it, you won't. My friends, that is the economy. That is how it rolls. Ultimately, comments and feedback are one thing, but the almighty dollar speaks more. And if not enough people buy this, they will absolutely address that price, and they will absolutely address what is included for that price. So at the end of the day, doing nothing and not buying it may speak more than sending feedback ever could. But with that in mind, let's press on. Is it worth it? Yes and no. My opinion. Ultimately, you have to decide for yourself. I've laid out everything that's available, how it might impact you. You have to decide whether it's not worth. Me, personally, yes and no. I would say if there is a Resplendent hero that I am interested in, yes, I would get it for that month. If not, no. The quest rewards, the quality of life adjustments, none of that really makes it worth it to me. Not at that price. If it was $5 or less, I would absolutely get it every month. No question asked. At this price point, no. But again, I think the Feh Pass itself is supposed to be month selective. I don't think it's supposed to be something that, You know, they're enticing you to get every single month. That's why they're letting you know ahead of time who's going to be on it, so you can plan ahead. Because the other offset is, if there's not a resplendent hero you don't want, or if there's a resplendent hero in the pack that you don't want and you get it anyway, the other stuff that you get is definitely not worth $10 a month. Plain and simple. Like, that's just how it is. So while the pass may be more expensive than it's worth, I do also think that it is relatively inexpensive over the course of that month. So if you think about it, it's like 2 cups of coffee that you would buy, or something you would get at Starbucks in a month. It's less than a Spotify monthly subscription, which you may use to listen to. I don't know. Again, ideally, I would say something closer to like $7 and make Autostart a standard feature. That, to me, is a more reasonable thing. I think you would get everybody to pretty much get it every month if it was like $4.99 and had all these features. I think 100% that would be something. But all that aside, those are the facts. That's my take on it. All the aspects that we currently know about the Feh Pass I have laid out for you. That's all I got. I've been talking about this for 30 minutes now, and I am tired. I don't want to talk about Feh Pass anymore. I just want my Cordelia art. That's it. Look at her. She's beautiful. Anyway, feel free to continue the conversation in the comments, but remember to be civil and excellent to one another. Because again, I do not feel as though this is a topic that should be tearing us apart. You know, it's really not worth it. It's really not worth the anger and outrage that it's receiving. But listen, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back with more normally scheduled Feh content soon. Probably once the update happens. So that's cool. Lots of good stuff coming. Anniversary's coming up. We'll do a video on my free 5-star special summon. So yeah, look forward to that. If nothing else, don't let this get under your skin. It's not a big deal. At the end of the day, it is not a big deal. But until then, just know that I appreciate you, and I will catch you next time.